Okay, so what I will do is I will just make some concluding remarks, incorporating the the inputs that we've had from the floor. I think the first point is to make is that we really need to think about structural issues before we answer the very specific, because the things that hinder Africa's development are often the things we don't think have got to do with development, but are actually really important. Food is really important for development. It really is. Feeling safe is good, not just for development, but for your mental health, your confidence, and so on. Having communities that have an opportunity to be communities and an infrastructure that allows them to be communities is really, really important. Because in an environment of nothing, where you only have houses, one of my frustrations with RDP housing solutions is that they are open air hostels. They're open air hostels. No walkways, no trees, no sports and cultural facilities, and so on. The second point about changing the way we think, as somebody mentioned public transport. Generally, it's not public transport. It's privately owned transport used by the public. That's what taxis are. I'm not saying let's get rid of the taxi industry, but let's call it what it is. It's privately owned transport, often without norms and standards, which is used by the public and often the black public. So in the spirit of thinking bigger, maybe we might want to think, to your point, Buti, that you don't have to rely on anybody's charity. But actually, we are a society that provides adequate public transportation so that you can cover that distance in 20 minutes because the public transportation system allows you to do that. And so we need to keep challenging ourselves. The third point is Sisi, to your point about naming things that they are, and I take the point that you're making about Cecil John Rhodes, and I accept it. Sometimes we have to talk about racism. And so sometimes I say we are a racist society. And people say, what do you mean? Because we haven't had racism for 30 years and that sort of thing. So we are going to have racism possibly for the next 100 years. Because you see, that lady I spoke about, that spatial injustice that we're talking about was deliberate. It was an outcome of racist thinking. It was an outcome of racist policy. And so we can't talk about non-racialism if we are not going to specifically target those material issues so that the impact of racism is no longer felt by anyone in our country. And I think it is in doing things that way that we begin to unlock opportunity. The second last thing I want to say is, this is going to become very strange coming from someone who started a political organization. Can we not center political parties in our society? Can we please not do that? Because the job of a political party is to win votes. It is to secure power. But politics is but one center of power, just one. The reason I mentioned the church, I mentioned sports, there is business and culture and so on is because those should be centers of power in a society. Those should be centers of power in a society. The last point I want to make is this. If we accept that there are multiple centers of power, how far would we advance and how powerful a society would we be if from each of those centers there were just 200 people who think generally the same, who share the same vision, who share the same theory of how we move forward as a society? Because that says, in order to change the world, not all of us have to be politicians, and it's okay. You can be a priest, you can be a business person, etc., etc. What matters is what you stand for and the future you are willing to imagine. So I hope by talking about those fundamental issues, we can walk out of here thinking differently about how to answer your question, But Elias. Thank you very much.